2 semesters in the making. It is my addition to Warming Hut's V17 competition on ice. Looking back on when I first began designing the Warming Hut, 3D modeling was not a skill that I would have learned outside of the program. Now, besides 3D modeling, this semester I have acquired many woodworking trade skills that I have used to construct my Warming Hut on the rails. This semester began on an upbeat mindset that came with starting my final year of high school, returning to Propel, and already knowing what I was going to be working on during this semester. And at the end of it all, I knew I would have evolved my digital 3D models into a Warming Hut on the ice. This semester, my project did not focus on design. Instead, I focused on developing technical blueprints and building the hut. So I did use my previously acquired 3D modeling skills developing plans. After plans like these were completed, construction began. Throughout the construction phase, I learned many techniques for building small structures, like 16 inches on center, using cripple studs, jacks, and kings. Here, you can see the different kinds of studs that I'm talking about. The smallest is called the cripple stud. It's called that because it is usually a piece of a king stud that has been cut down to fit the specific requirements of the wall. A king stud fits from the top of the wall to the bottom. Being the tallest, its name truly fits. The last stud is called the jack. Their job in the frame is to hold up the headers for the windows or doors. The header is used to spread out the weight on the structure from above it onto the jacks. And have you ever wondered why on screws, why part of it isn't threaded? I sure did. How they work is that once you reach the unthreaded portion of the screw, it starts to suck the materials together and create a flush fit. Knowing how to lay out the framing of a wall is definitely a skill I will use in the future. Mr. Hansen often said that I was building a small house. And if I was building the Warming Hut alone, it would have felt that way. Luckily, I had Josh Johnson by my side. He was more than willing to join me on this project and make it his own, while also balancing his own solo wood carving project to make sure mine succeeded. My team didn't stop there. Mr. Patrician was also a huge part of the construction phase. He could be seen as the engineer of the whole project, and as the architect, well, we didn't always see eye to eye. Josh and Mr. P were always willing to spend time outside of school to work on the Warming Hut, from coming in during winter break, weekends, and even spending a 14-hour day at school until the custodians asked us to leave. Needless to say, I'm glad I had a great team to help me complete this project. My project was a very public and forward-facing endeavor, simply because 17-year-olds don't normally take part in international competitions. So the Warming Hut began attracting a lot of attention. In the online community, I regularly tweeted pictures about the construction and occasionally made some funny jokes along the way. This tweet is very lighthearted, but the reason it was created is really cool. What Mr. Patrician is doing there is soaking a piece of plywood that is littered with relief cuts so that we can just stretch a plywood piece along a curved wall frame section. But the Warming Hut's media presence didn't end there. It was largely based on the promotion it got from 2 news articles, one from the Winnipeg Free Press and the other from the Metro. After circulation, I was featured on the NMC website and LRSD's website. At this point, the Warming Hut was attracting a lot of attention. Even people from my church that I had never spoken to before came by and congratulated me. Once the Warming Hut was unveiled on January 27th, I was also interviewed by Global and CTV News. The interviews were on the air during the 6 p.m. news that day, and between you and me, I was enjoying the spotlight. But when you're working on a real-life project in the workforce, you won't always be on cloud 9 like I was. Towards the beginning of the semester, I was informed the hard truth that my Warming Hut might not be able to be built, and if it were to be built, it would be with drastic design changes. That idea did not sit well with me. That was the lowest point of my entire Propel experience, yet it was still very empowering. It gave me the opportunity to simulate a real workplace experience where all of the odds were against me. I needed to figure out many aspects of my project that I had never foreseen. Through that, I persevered and showed grit and tenacity when working through all of the challenges this semester. It wasn't until we actually started building the Warming Hut that I actually saw a great deal of success. The construction phase was very invigorating because I finally saw the many months of work pay off and evolve into a creation that I hope many people will enjoy on the river trail this season. With each day of of construction, I saw the growth of the warming hut evolving from digital images to an actual structure. It was over the holiday break. I was working with Mr. P in the shop, and we started to put up the frames of the walls, and I finally saw my design come to life. I was able to visualize the final product, even though we were far from that point. Being able to construct the warming hut gave me a chance to harness my skills in the wood shop and let me learn many new trade skills. Along with the many successes of the project, there were many challenges that appeared. I began the semester in a great mindset, knowing that by the end of the semester I would have completed this year-long project and have an amazing art piece that I designed among world-renowned architects and artists. Hearing that the warming hut would need serious design changes to be built within budget destroyed that mindset. And of course, the largest setback, time. We admittedly started building the warming hut too late in the semester, which set our timeline to a point where we had to work many long hours. We also needed to find a workshop space away from regular school activities to fill our needs. Even after finding a beautiful workshop space, we soon realized that it was too small to have the hut assembled and brought out through the garage door, which led to looking for other shop solutions which weren't fruitful at all. So the warming hut was built in about 10 different modular pieces to be assembled outside and then shipped to the Forks. The modular design of the warming hut was also very time consuming, always having to move pieces around, take them apart for storage, and working on them in different fashions than you normally would when constructing a warming hut of this size. You can imagine it as we were building a Lamborghini in a basement, and once we were finished, we had no way of moving outside, except that actually happened. All the building projects that I know of follow something called the engineering principle. What this entails that every project has to either have a sacrifice from cost, quality, or time. You can't have all three. And in the case of the warming hut, time was our largest concern. We were often behind schedule, but we worked hard and spent many days working late into the evening to make sure that the hut was completed for January 26th. Now, January 18th was a very hard day. Mr. Patrician and I knew we were behind schedule, and we did not have enough time left to finish every aspect of the design that I created. I was very scared at this point. I was not willing to change almost anything for the design, for I felt it would take away from the rest of it. But after a brainstorming session with the rest of the class, and Mr. Magnifico and Mr. Sabrin, our decision had been made. Their idea was to turn the whole warming hut into a metaphor. This idea allowed us to save time and money by removing some of the extra components of the design. To execute the idea, we eliminated the window and door trim and did not paint the interior. Now, you may be asking, how does this create a metaphor? Well, when John A. Macdonald sold the railway to the settlers as this pristine lifestyle that would open up the West and it would thrive. But it was a harsh life on the prairies, filled with many hardships. To demonstrate that, the outside of the warming hut looks very clean, very pleasing to look at, and inviting. But once you step inside the rail car, you see the rough edges and surfaces, and the way that the settlers of the prairies lived. The windows are open to convey the wind that found their way through the many cracks in these homesteads. Overall, I'm very fond of these design changes. I feel that they bring more depth to the design and add character. Although I can't take credit for the idea, the execution is my own. However, the pieces that were lost in the changes are something I wish I could see on the final product. Even though the warming hut isn't the same as I designed it, I'm very proud of the way it turned out. The road to completing On the Rails was very long and winding, and traveling down it opened up many new learning skills and opportunities for me. I've already mentioned some to you, but I'd like to go in depth on a few that have impacted my learning. Because of the warming hut is a very public project, I was always considering and thinking about how other people would view the final product. This consideration came through many times when discussing possible design changes and how to present the warming hut to the public. In the case of the design changes, it is easy to tell that the final product is not the same as my originals, which isn't a bad thing. There's always room to grow, which is one of the reasons the changes were made. They were a challenge at my ability to adapt my designs and push me out of my comfort zone. I'm glad these design changes were there because they pushed me to get out of my comfort zone and gave me a great opportunity to learn. There were many instances during the construction phase where I was out of my expertise. Sure, I knew how the tools worked and the way that the warming hut was to be built, but when it came down to actual techniques and trade skills, I hadn't a clue at all what I was doing. However, when you have someone like Mr. Patrician or Curtis Nordheim around, it's very easy to pick up and learn these trade skills. Being a quick learner really helped because I was able to construct, because like I said, construction was a very stressful time. But now I can frame an entire wall complete with windows, doors, and even a roof if that's what you require. And by the end of it all, I went from looking like I knew nothing to looking more like Like I previously said, I did not have much knowledge in building and framing walls or roofs or anything, and it didn't stop there. Every day I saw myself asking new questions to further my learning in Propel. The largest string of questions came to Mr. Patrician when I was learning how to draft frames for the walls on Google SketchUp. It began when I thought I had a breakthrough on how they would be built. I was way off. And that led to a quick lesson Mr. P and I dubbed Framing 101. I did learn a lot from the quick lesson, but it opened my brain up to more and more design thoughts and questions. All in all, one of the many ways On the Rails was successful was through my ability to ask the right questions to solve problems. The workflow of my project revolved heavily around this loop, except I felt as if my brain was running 1 million miles a minute. So the loop didn't always flow in a concise circle. I often bypassed research, which was my own mistake. So I went back around the loop learning from my mistakes, which isn't a bad thing. I reflected every time on what I might be able to change or make different in the design, which led to asking my peers and classmates what they thought of my ideas, as their opinions mean a lot to me and the development of my project. After spending a year in Propel, between my 2 semesters, I am very confident with my decision to go to the University of Manitoba to study architecture and earn a bachelor degree of environmental design and return to earn my master's degree in architecture. I believe that Propel has given me a leg up in choosing my career and given me a great opportunity to explore and gather some knowledge that could set me apart from the other students. After spending a full year working on a project is something that not many students get the chance to do. Propel has given myself and my fellow students the chance to leave the traditional classroom in pursuit of something that we are truly passionate about. And that experience is something I won't soon forget. My project truly has evolved. Over my 2 semesters in Propel, coming into the program without knowing what 3D modeling really is, not knowing how to construct a small structure, I truly have grown, and you can see it all through this development. My ideas started out primitive, but as I learned and progressed through the semester, my skills improved and I have become very confident in 3D modeling and in my woodworking abilities. The warming hut has truly been a journey. I'm so proud of the way it turned out. For myself, it has been a long endeavor that I've put my heart and soul into. Many people have been helping me through this journey, and I just wanted to acknowledge and say thank you to them. Thank you to Ms. Nordheim for lending me your husband, Curtis, to help me in the Thank you to Ken Furconicam, for a Propel graduate, for always giving me words of motivation and taking some great photos that you've seen throughout this presentation. And thank you to my dad for helping me build the interior pieces of the warming hut with me. And lastly, thank you to Mr. P and Josh for helping me along with this endeavor. And I also want to say a quick thanks to Mr. Wagner. Without him, this whole project wouldn't have happened. I truly believe that this is the future of education. Through Propel, I have not only been able to design and put my warming hut on the skating trail at the Forks, beside other respected architects' designs, I've also been able to network and branch out to make this project happen. I've also been able to meet extraordinary people who I would have never met outside the program. These people have become my friends, and whenever I need some advice, they're always there. Mr. Patrician and Mr. Hansen have easily become some of my favorite teachers. I've learned so much from them in the past year, and I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for all the mentoring and guiding my project through paths unknown. Now, my Propel experience may be over, but for others, it's just beginning.